Well, we all knew Creature Commandos was going to be the first part of James Gunn's new DCU and Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. We've joked many times about how it makes sense to kick it off with a bunch of monsters, but it sounds like to me the villain of the series is going to have a massive impact on the overall story and the greater DCU. Let's take a couple minutes to talk about the new Creature Commando series, who the big baddie appears to be, and the possibility of DC Studios having some big plans for that character. Well, as many of you know, one thing James Gunn has done a pretty darn good job with is casting his new DCU characters. He said right from the beginning, people that voice characters in animation or video games will also play their live-action counterparts, and because of that, we've paid pretty close attention to people picked up to play these various roles. Now, early on in the development of Creature Commandos, we found out that Witcher star Anya Chalotra, who plays Yennefer in the series, would provide the voice for Circe, and this instantly led to some talk about whether she could have a bigger role in the expanded DCU. Now, since then, most of these details have been kept under wraps, but if you are familiar with the actress, you can completely see how she would be great to bring Circe to life in live action. In the comics, Circe, like her Greek mythological counterpart, is a massively powerful sorceress who was first introduced as a Wonder Woman villain, which is curious because we don't have a lot of news for Wonder Woman. Now, in the comics, like I said, she's incredibly powerful, but she's also ruthless and cruel and could be used as the DCU's first big baddie because she's definitely powerful enough to face off with the likes of the Justice League. Now, recently, we got a bit of an update from Scooper Daniel Richtman, and like we always like to say, it's not James Gunn or DC Studios, or in this case, Peter Safran. So we want to take it with a grain of salt, but Richtman has been hitting him out of the park for several months. He's not an anonymous scooper, so he stands right beside his stories, and honestly, as a source of information, it feels pretty proven. Now, what he is saying is that he believes the character will have a significant part in the expansive cinematic universe James Gunn is developing, and that Creature Commandos will definitely lay the framework for her to stick around within the DC universe. Now, what this suggests to me is the character is not going to be killed off in Creature Commandos, and definitely will live on. Like I said, she is more than powerful enough to face off with almost any DCU hero. And given this first phase is called Gods and Monsters, well, magic fits in there just perfectly, and Circe is one of the most powerful magicians in all of DC Comics. I'll say something interesting here is including Circe without some of these Wonder Woman plans really is indicative of what James Gunn might have in store for us all. The character's only been part of Wonder Woman comics since the 1980s, but her impact has been massive. And you have to consider the possibility that James Gunn's new DCU, well, since we don't have any Wonder Woman in store for us right now, and the only Wonder Woman on the horizon is a history show kind of like Game of Thrones, well, having Circe show up at the very beginning suggests to me that the introduction of the Amazons and Wonder Woman herself might be playing a much bigger role in the larger DCU story, especially Chapter 1, than James Gunn or anybody else has clued us into. I have no proof of that, it's all pure speculation on my part, but when you look at all the stories that she's been involved in that include the Amazons, and there's no Amazons in sight so far, well, it might be how the world gets to know the Amazons themselves and why they eventually enter man's world at all. I also don't think you can underestimate the casting of Anya Chalotra as a character. She's done a pretty good job playing Yennefer in The Witcher, despite the series having several problems, and fans are pretty excited to see her bring this character to life, and given how the general audience sees her basically as a wizard, well, this is a great transition and casting for James Gunn, and I'm sure she'll be great in live action. Now, we only have about a week before Creature Commandos finally drops. I'm not really sure if she's in the first 2 episodes, but obviously the character is going to have a big impact before the series is over, and any clues of her having a more deep impact on the wider DCU will probably be part of that story. So, what do you guys think? Do you believe Circe could be one of the main villains of James Gunn's new DCU? And how do you feel about Witcher star Anya Chalotra taking up the role? I've been a fan since day one. Now, before you take off, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, ring that bell for all the updates, and make sure you get every notification because we do daily Marvel and DC content and we don't want you to miss any news.